Melissa Yee is a Canadian emergency room physician who's also an award-winning writer. She's out with her new book, Scorpion Scheme, and she joins me now to talk a little bit more about it. Melissa, first of all, can you just take us through what is Scorpion Scheme? Tell us a little bit about it.
So Scorpion Scheme stars Dr. Hope C., a medical resident who solves crimes as well as saving lives. And this time she's in Egypt. So she's just supposed to do a medical elective. Everything should be good. But she and her fiance run into trouble almost right off the plane. And they end up trying to help a man with a nail through his head. And he is a man from South Africa who may hold the key to the $500 million in buried gold.
This book, I believe, is the 8th book in a series. What's it like working with characters that you've already kind of know and kind of continuing their story along? Is it harder or is it easier to write this novel?
Well, it's enjoyable for me because she's based on me in the first place, because I'm a medical doctor as well. And I enjoy watching her grow through the series. And, you know, you get your cast of characters and you get to play with them too. The only thing that would be challenging, I guess, is if you wanted to introduce new things. But in my case, I don't think it's more so much based on setting as the fact that medical residents are stuck in the hospital most of the time. So you don't get very many changes in settings.
So as you mentioned, you are a doctor in your real life, and obviously you based your character somewhat on yourself. But how does being a doctor kind of influence your writing?
I'm an emergency doctor, so the nice thing is it's shift work. So you're either on or you're off. One thing that family doctors, for example, find really tough is even when they're not physically there or on call, they're still getting lab results and stuff after hours that they have to wade through. For me, I find it very inspiring because I get to meet people like both doctors and nurses and other staff and patients in all times, including in times of crisis, which is really a privilege. And, you know, a time of chaos can also later be turned into a story.
Now, other books in this series that you've written have been recommended by the Globe and Mail and CBC Books. They've been really well received. Does that add more pressure for you when you're coming out with another book to kind of live up to the hype of your previous novels?
Oh, that's a hilarious question. It's like asking celebrities, well, you've peaked, so is there anything left? No, for me, I'm always like, I'm a type A sort of person, so there's always a higher mountain to climb. So, critical acclaim is one thing. I'd like to reach more readers. I'd like to reach more readers in Alberta too, for example. So you could always build. A lot of pressure in writing is self-inflicted. So, it's a mind game. If you can get away from it, then, just stay there, just write your books and make everybody happy.
So obviously there's going to be fans of your previous books that are going to want to read this new book, Scorpion Scheme, but who else would also be like an ideal reader of this book?
Well, of course, you want everybody to read it.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I found that women tend to be more receptive to my books, and nurses, teachers, basically educated women and strong women tend to be my best readers. But if guys come by, they're usually really awesome. They'll say, I really want to support a local author, or I've heard of you. And they tend to enjoy thrillers, which is what most of the Hope books are.
And you talked a little bit about women liking the book and maybe resonating a bit with the protagonist. Can you talk a little bit about having a strong female protagonist in your novel?
Yeah, this is one of my pet things because not everybody reacts well to a strong woman. Everybody says they want a strong woman, but then they're quick to criticize. Well, in real life and in fiction. I had a writing mentor, Christine Catherine Rush, and I talked to her because I was like, some people say she's not nice enough, or they don't like her, which is not a pressure that male protagonists or perhaps male writers may face as much. And she just looked disgusted and she was like, I just figure that in 20 years, people won't complain as much, like society will have caught up and want strong female protagonists. And I think the tide is changing. Like certainly we're seeing more people who want women who make decisions, right or wrong, and who are willing to stay in the driver's seat.
What's something that may surprise people in this book?
One thing that people find surprising is that Hope is sarcastic and has sometimes a dark sense of humor. Maybe they're not surprised because, medicine is famous for Black humor. But, well, one of my book club friends was like, oh, she says the F word. So I don't want people to be too scared off. I mean, we try to be realistic and use the vernacular, and there is the occasional F-bomb. But otherwise, it's just a really great story, great characters. Just enjoy.
And for people who are interested in buying a copy of the book, how are they able to do so?
Well, to always talk to your independent bookstore. As long as they have the name and the author name and the ISBN, they should be able to find it. And of course, it's available on Amazon, Kobo, and all the e-tailers out there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Melissa, for taking some time to talk with me today.
Thanks so much for having me, Chase.